APA strike fear into your heart? Are you still confused about the difference between an endnote and a footnote? In this video, we're going to talk about the 3 most popular types of citations and how to format them properly. The first type of citation we'll be talking about is MLA. MLA citations look something like this. First, you put the author's name with the last name first and the first name last, followed by a period. Then you include the source title, which is the title of your work in quotation marks, followed by another period. Next, you would put container title, which is the title of the larger work that the piece appears in. For example, if your source is an article in an academic journal, include the name of the academic journal here. This part of the citation is in italics, and it's followed by a comma. Next, we have other contributors, which are people besides the author that have contributed to this work, followed by, you guessed it, another comma. Other contributors is followed by version. If there are multiple versions of your source, then you should mention which specific version this source is, and you should place another comma behind this. Number is similar. If there are multiple volumes of this work, mention which number this work is, followed by another comma. Next, you would put the publisher, which is the publishing company which published the work, followed by a comma. Then the publication date, which is the date when the work was published, followed by another comma. And then the location, which is where this work was published, followed by a period. This is how to successfully make an MLA reference, but how do we give credit to sources in text? In-text citations need to be placed after quotes or information that have been taken directly from the source material. In-text citations look like this. You might have the sentence followed by the quote, and then directly behind the quotation mark, you would put a parenthesis, the last name of the author, and the page number where the quote was found, followed by another parenthesis and a period. However, if you have mentioned the author's name in the sentence, you would simply put the page number in parentheses before the period. Now let's move on to formatting what's known as a works cited or a bibliography. Bibliographies are typically included at the end of your work and serve as a compilation of all the sources you've used in your work. An MLA-style bibliography has 1-inch margins, a centered title, it is typically double-spaced, has a hanging indent about 1/2 inch long, and is alphabetized. Let's say you're making an MLA bibliography in Word. First, to set the margins, you would go into Layout. There you'd find the Margins tab. Customize your margins to 1 inch. Now highlight and select your citation, and go down into
Line Spacing Options.
There you'll find a number of options for indents and spacing. On the indentation part of the menu, you'll find a Special option. There you can click on the drop-down menu and find the Hanging Indent option, and then adjust to 1/2 inch. And there you have it, your typical MLA-style bibliography. Now let's move on to APA style. APA-style citations are typically used for social sciences, and they're a little more complicated than MLA-style citations. For example, you have a list of options for APA-style citations to use in text under different circumstances. For example, if there's only one author of your work, then you would use in parentheses the last name and the date of publication. If there are 2 authors, you would put in parentheses the last name of one author followed by an ampersand and the last name of the other author, a comma, and the date of publication. If there are 2 or more authors, then you would put the first author's last name followed by et al., then a comma and the date of publication. But if it's published by an organization, then you simply put the organization name and the date of publication. APA references, which are citations included in a bibliography, generally include the author names, followed by a comma, the publication date, followed by a period, a title in italics, followed by a comma, and the source, followed by a period. An APA-style bibliography is similar to the MLA-style bibliography. It has 1-inch margins, a centered title, a 1/2 inch hanging indent, it's alphabetized, but unlike the MLA-style bibliography, it's single-spaced. So essentially, follow all the steps for the MLA-style bibliography, but when you go to the paragraph drop-down menu, make sure to click single-spaced rather than double-spaced. Now let's move on to arguably one of the most feared styles of citations, Chicago style. Rather than include an in-text citation like MLA or APA, Chicago style uses footnotes and endnotes to cite sources. While this might sound confusing, it's actually pretty simple. To insert a footnote in Microsoft Word, you would find the References tab, and you'll find an Insert Footnote option right there. All you have to do is insert a footnote, and then, in the endnote, type out your source. There are 2 different types of citation styles for the sources in the endnotes. Endnotes can either contain a full note or a short note. A full note contains complete source info, including the author full name, followed by a comma, the book title, followed by a colon, a subtitle, followed by a comma, an edition, followed by a period, and in parentheses, a place of publication, followed by a colon, a publisher, followed by a comma, and the year. And then after these parentheses, there would be a comma, page numbers that you used, if you used a specific passage, followed by another comma, and then a URL if it's an electronic source, followed by a period. Short notes are a lot less complicated. It's simply the author's last name, followed by a comma, the source title or titles, followed by a comma, and then the page numbers of the cited passage, followed by a period. But WMC Tutor, you might ask, what if I'm citing the same source multiple times in a row? Won't the endnotes get crowded? If you're citing the same source multiple times in a row, rather than writing that source over and over in the endnote, simply put IBID, or IBID. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's kind of cute to say it like that, right? Similar to APA, Chicago utilizes a different kind of citation in text and in the bibliography. Citations that are used in Chicago-style bibliography look like this. You have the author last name followed by a comma, and then the first name followed by a period. Then you would have, in italics, the book title, followed by a colon, and the subtitle. A note, you don't have to use the subtitle unless your book or source has a subtitle, so don't stress about that. Then you would have the edition, which is of course if the source has multiple editions, followed by a period, then the place of publication, followed by a colon, the publisher, followed by a comma, and then the year it was published, followed by a period. And then, if you have this information, you would have the DOI/URL, followed by a period. Chicago-style bibliographies are formatted identically to APA style. And there you have it, the 3 most used types of citations demystified. I hope this helped your rhetorical endeavors, but if you have any other questions about rhetoric or multiliteracy topics, you can always schedule an appointment with a WMC tutor at the WMC website at umsd.edu/WMC/. Also, if you have a quick question that needs answering, the WMC is now hosting Ask a Tutor live streams every Friday for all your pressing questions. Stay safe, stay creative, and I'll see you in the next one.